Meet the M-10 Warthog. The Warthog is a heavy combat mech designed to get into the fray to soak up as well as dish out heavy damage. Armed with a powerful minigun, it is capable of high rates of fire and high damage against flying targets as well as large ground targets. While playing the Warthog, you'll immediately notice unusual characteristics compared to the other mechs. For starters, you'll notice the 2-second delay before being able to open fire. This affects the Warthog both on the ground as well as in the air. There is a 2-second grace period after you stop firing your gun. At any point within this period, you can fire your weapon without warming it up. The next thing you will notice is that while in air mode, your mech will lose nearly 50% of its agility while firing your weapon. This can leave you vulnerable to faster aerial mechs such as the Neo and the Saucer. One of the biggest drawbacks of the Warthog is that its main weapon is a huge energy drain when firing. In the early game, you will have to keep a close eye on your energy meter, lest you run out of energy at a bad time. One final drawback to the Warthog is that you will notice it has a carrying problem. It has the smallest carrying capacity of all mechs, which also causes it to fly very slowly when your load is maxed out. The main feature of the Warthog is that it's the strongest of all the ranged mechs. And, on top of that, it has the most health, making it the most durable of all the mechs. Now for a quick overview of the Warthog's abilities and upgrades. The first ability is the Warthog's air-to-ground and ground-to-air ability. It first starts out at half your damage rate. When upgraded, it will increase it to closer to your standard damage rate. The next two abilities are both passive. The first one decreases the warm-up rate it takes to fire your weapon. When maxed out, it will nearly remove the warm-up period prior to firing. The other ability increases the armor rating of your mech. With the basics aside, let's get into general strategy with the Warthog. First, we need to look into pilot choice. Unlike the other mechs, your pilot choice for the Warthog is crucial since the Warthog has energy and speed problems. If we discount unique pilots, I suggest pilots that increase your mech's overall energy, such as Miko or Ash. Next, for the love of God, don't try to seek out and dogfight another mech. Against a skilled opponent, you cannot and will not win. However, instead, look towards intercepting mechs. Intercepting is attacking mechs that are carrying units. While carrying units, mechs tend to fly slower, making them ideal targets for your high-powered mech, even with the speed disadvantage. Don't be afraid to take hits. You're like a walking rock. Almost nothing can stop you. You can even go solo and do some serious damage, especially in the early game when defenses are low overall. Just don't let your mech's toughness get to your head. Even the toughest defenses cannot be broken by a mere mech. Now let's look into how to spend ability points and using the air-to-ground and ground-to-air ability. A good idea is to avoid creep upgrades early on, as you will want to put points towards ridding your mech of its restrictions. Personally, I'm partial to bumping up the weapon warm-up ability as soon as possible. There is, however, a trick to help cope with it without putting ability points into it, which I'll get into shortly if you decide to ignore the ability. I also suggest avoid using the ground-to-air and air-to-ground ability early on, as it reduces your attack strength, and early in the game, you pretty much have no strength to begin with. However, if you decide to rush up that ability, you can use it as early as level 3 or 4 with high efficiency. As I mentioned earlier, there's a non-bug trick to getting around the slow warm-up without putting points into the ability. First, get into flying mode and find a spot where you want to land. Just before you transform, begin to warm up your weapon, then transform. By the time you hit the ground, your gun should not be prepped for firing. What's happening is that you're combining your long ground transformation animation with your warm-up period. This trick does not work in reverse, since the ground-to-air transformation is so fast. However, one thing to keep in mind, this is not a real replacement to actually putting points into the ability. This, however, is a nice workaround until you find time to put points into it. There you have it. You have seen the awesome might of the Warthog, its unbreakable will, and its clunky controls. So, are you ready to fly it?